fact, am here to share some new information with you about what works to motivate people to get ready for disasters. But first, I need to say that this study was funded by the Department of Homeland Security, and they made me promise to say they absolutely don't publicly endorse anything I might say at any time. And of course, I worked with many other people. And the purpose of this presentation is to describe the human element. That is the actual character of human beings. And if you think about it for just one moment, your country has funded almost every single major and even minor college and university to fund psychology departments and sociology departments for the last 100 years. That's generation on top of generation on top of generation of faculty, of professors, of graduate students doing research. Now that I'm retired and no longer need federal grants and contracts, I'm going to say, we have human beings figured out. I'm going to talk about how to motivate them to prepare. My conversation with you today is only about people who live in households. The findings are going to be converted into a toolkit that we prepared for increasing public preparedness based on scientific findings, and answer the fundamental question, which is, how do you help people stop doing what they're doing, listen to what it is you're trying to tell them, and get ready for disasters that most of them in their heart believe won't really happen? And if they do happen, will happen to someone else, not them. That's the problem you're dealing with. Now, why do people think that way? People think that way because human beings, despite what you've read, don't perceive risk to high consequence, low probability events. Human beings actually perceive that they're safe from nature's fury and other disaster types, and every single day they live that a disaster doesn't happen is confirming evidence for that perception with them. They're right most of the time. Now, I want to go over two basic definitions to bring some clarity to how a scientist approaches the study of household preparedness. The first thing we need to do is clarify what we call the dependent variable, because public preparedness means many different things to different people. A clear definition is important because it frames the public actions we want to influence. Public preparedness is a lot more than 72 hours worth of water, flashlights, batteries, canned food, and ever since September 11th, duct tape. The 7 behavioral categories, a typology we used was, first is learning what to do to be prepared, what to do before, during, and after an event to stay safe. The second is planning what to do, things like having a household disaster plan and a lot more. The third is training and practicing. For example, learning first aid, if you live where I do, how to drop, cover, and hold on when you feel the ground shake, and more. Next is organizing supplies and equipment. That means stockpiling enough of what you'll need when you need it, for when you need it. The next is protecting your building structure. For example, if you're talking about floods, elevating the structure. If you're talking about earthquakes, evaluating the safety of your home, and more. And the last is safeguarding your finances. And I hear some people interested in the flood hazard would include flood insurance in that. But there are other ways to think about finance protection as well. It looks pretty much like this. Most of the things that people could do to prepare don't cost anything. Learning how to prepare is free. It's available to everyone in the country in multiple languages. Planning what to do doesn't cost anything. Training and practicing doesn't cost anything, but as you go up this pyramid, the amount of money you need to spend on these activities increases. Now, what's preparedness information? Because that's fundamentally the independent variable. That includes many different things, and we have an abundance of it in the country. It includes brochures, internet sites, television ads, radio spots, school coloring books, grocery bag messages, museum displays, refrigerator magnets. It goes on in schools and workplaces. There are neighborhood activities. It can be a one-shot information event. For an example, an annual flood preparedness day or week. It could be different information from different organizations, or it can be a coordinated campaign across organizations, and more. Here's the research basis. Research into what motivates people to get ready for natural hazards of all kinds, including floods, has gone on for at least 50 years in the United States of America. It's been done on all kinds of hazards and disasters, and that is known generally as communication research. That works all the way from general education campaigns to motivate preparedness, right on down to giving people communications of warnings where they need to take protective actions quickly. Many research publications are in print. You can access all that research. There's a 350-page, one page per scientific publication on this topic at the University of Colorado's Natural Hazard Center. That annotated bibliography you could download now on your laptop, and you could see all the research that's been going on. If any of you might ever do that, let me point out that don't get excited if you find one study finding something. That's called a finding. Knowledge is what you want, and that comes from reading all the studies and seeing what the common threads are. The bibliography tells you who did the research, what kind of hazard it was on, what the elements of the research were about, and what hypotheses were supported. That is, what factors seemed to motivate the public to get ready and which ones didn't, based on what the researchers concluded. Let me also point out that all research isn't good research. Did any of you know that? Good research actually uses past research as its context. You're not supposed to do research like this unless you've read every other publication on a like topic that's ever been published. In case any of you worked on a master's or PhD, you know that is chapter 2 in your dissertation, called the literature review. It uses probability samples rather than just reach conclusions based on a few people you happen to meet on a street corner. It doesn't do correlations to say we found out that gender relates to a certain behavior, not controlling for all the other things that also relate to that behavior. That's 1936 style social science. Today, what we do is reach conclusions about what impacts behavior while controlling for every other factor that impacts behavior. Good research doesn't ask respondents to speculate why they did something, because they don't know. The scientist is supposed to discover why they did something. And good research distinguishes between what people think versus what they do. We know that what people think in between their ears and what people do out here in the rest of the world we're in terms of behavior, rarely match.